Speaker. Well, the Green Party is delighted that the Natural Health Products Bill, which will set up a standalone natural health products regulator within the Ministry of Health, is before this House. So instead of lumping natural health products in with medicine and food, the bill sets up a system for the regulation of natural health products as a separate low-risk category of product. Now, the bill which the Green Party has helped to negotiate with the government has been a long time in gestation, and I don't intend to dwell on the past, but just for the record, I would like to point out why I believe the regulatory system that we have come up with in this bill is a vast improvement on the previous proposal before this House to regulate natural health products through a heavy-handed trans-Tasman regulator. The Natural Health Unit that we are setting up will be located here in Wellington, not in Canberra. It will be staffed by New Zealanders, not by Australians, and we will retain our sovereignty over it. Grant Robertson said he believed that New Zealand could retain our sovereignty through the trans-Tasman regulator. Let me assure New Zealanders we could not under the previous scheme, and basically all regulations were delegated to an official based in Canberra. We had no ability to exercise our sovereignty. The scheme we've come up with is a low-risk regulatory scheme which is appropriate for the low-risk nature of natural health products. It's not a heavy-handed regime as was previously proposed. There will be a relatively straightforward system for approval on an online database. Products and ingredients that are used in other countries with recognised regulatory schemes will be automatically recognised. So if a natural health company already has their products approved in Australia, they will be automatically approved here as our scheme, or as Australia will be recognised under our scheme as an approved overseas regulator. And there'll be an open-ended list of ingredients, not a so-called permitted list as exists in Australia. And the problem with the Australian permitted list is that if an ingredient isn't on their list, it would be an illegal product, and we don't want to see a situation where natural herbs that have been used for millennia, or for example traditional herbs in New Zealand, could be deemed to be illegal. So what we are effectively doing is setting up a disapproval system such as exists in countries like the United States, where there will be a presumption that new products coming to market are acceptable unless the regulator has reason to be concerned. And this is very different from the onerous approval process for new ingredients that exists in Australia, where an applicant has to undergo an extensive and expensive process to prove that a new ingredient is safe. And many companies have said the Australian system is so expensive they can't afford to bring new and innovative products onto the Australian market, so that it discourages innovation. We don't want to see that happening here. The practice of rongoa Māori will be exempt from the bill, as it is a taonga of Māori and should be governed for and by Māori according to tikanga. Products made for consumers and low-risk products like homeopathy will also be exempt. Now, the Green Party wanted to have a clause in the legislation to recognise the treaty, and we will still be seeking to amend the legislation to include such a clause. We also wanted to see dedicated Māori representation within the new regulatory body provided for in the legislation. We're pleased the government will fund the costs of regulatory policy, advice, compliance, monitoring and start-up costs. When we began work on the bill, our aim was to set up a scheme which protects consumers and ensures products are safe and true to label, but which was not so onerous that it would put a whole lot of natural products businesses out of business. And I think we have achieved this, and I'm delighted that it's strongly supported by the natural health industry, a flourishing industry with around 450 companies, and we want to ensure that the industry continues to flourish. I believe the Green Party has made the legislation better, considerably better, by our involvement in helping to negotiate the bill. We've worked closely with officials, listened to submitters, and I think we have an improved regulatory system. And it demonstrates the value of small parties like the Green Party having an input into the policy and legislative process. It implements the promise that we made before the last election that we would we would work with whoever was in government to try to progress key issues that we think are important, such as natural health care. And it's satisfying that having led a campaign to defeat the previous Trans-Tasman regulatory scheme, which we thought was heavy-handed and undermined our sovereignty, satisfying then to be able to work constructively on what we think is a much better alternative. Mr. Speaker, more and more New Zealanders are turning to natural health products to keep themselves well. The Green Party strongly supports natural health care. Indeed, I believe we're the only party in the House which actively supports natural health care, wants to see it integrated into mainstream health. We worked with the Labour Party during the last term of government and secured funding for a small unit to investigate how natural health care could be integrated into mainstream health, but I believe, sadly, that work has virtually suspended over the last few years. The Green Party wants to see in New Zealand what exists in other countries overseas, traditional healthcare like acupuncture and naturopathy recognised and accepted throughout our health system. We want to see natural health practitioners working alongside nurses and doctors, using whatever treatment is judged to be most effective, and natural remedies and treatments offered in public health organisations and hospitals. Now, this may sound radical, but I would remind members that many policies that we have advocated and which have been dismissed as being radical at the time are now widely embraced in this House and by the public: climate change, peak oil, capital gains tax and many others. So I hope that our vision for natural health care being implemented into the health system will in time be accepted by this House. Finally, I will just say some have questioned why we need any regulatory scheme at all, given the low-risk nature of natural health products, but the reality is more and more natural health products are imported into New Zealand, and some from countries with a poor safety record. So it's important that importers in particular know that we have a regulatory scheme which requires that every product sold in New Zealand is safe and true to label. The other thing is the law did need updating. The present law means that making claims is illegal and doesn't cover many products. So we hope that this bill will be widely supported, will progress rapidly through the House, and we will be listening very keenly to submitters on the bill. Thank you very much.